Hello everybody and welcome back to Summit Railway. Today I want to show you the Canadian Pacific and Kansas City Railway. I've been to Canada, more specific to Calgary, Alberta for a couple of weeks, and I've done some train spotting. So here we go. The train yard in Calgary from the Canadian Pacific Railroad is right next to the skyline of the city, very nicely situated. Let's start by having a look at the diesel shop. It is a huge building, it seems to be in really good shape, and they've built a lot of impressive infrastructure right next to it. This specific locomotive was running the whole time I've been at the yard, but never got moved anywhere. So maybe it's a shunting locomotive, maybe they did a test run, I don't know. But here we go, those are the locomotives which come in to maintenance or are ready to go on the line. And there is a whole bunch of them. I was really impressed. Right next to all those locomotives we got a nice loading dock for tank cars and a whole bunch of drive motors as well. I suspect they have to change them quite frequently. Otherwise you wouldn't have that many of drive motors laying around at the yard. But it's a pretty big yard as well, so maybe it's standard, I don't know. Last but not least, there are two engines at the refill facility where they can get fuel and sand. And right next to it there is a very slim but high building. I suspect this is a washing facility, but I'm not sure. So if you know what this is, please let me know in the comments. But now it is time to follow this train, which is leaving the yard heading westbound into the Rocky Mountains. Just as I arrived at the next spot, I could see this train moving westbound through the outskirts of Calgary and passing next to a recreational area. Between Calgary and the city of Cochrane, the line was built alongside Bow River. At this point, I was able to catch a freight train moving eastbound to the city of Calgary after the passage of this maintenance vehicle. After the passage of this train, I switched position to a place slightly west of Cochrane to see a eastbound heading train pass by. I would have liked to show you the whole train passing by, but this took 6 minutes. So rather than waiting 6 minutes, we will move to the next place where we can witness a train crossing at the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. There we go! The westbound moving train has cleared the switch, and now the second train can continue its journey eastbound to Calgary. Since this is a perfect place to get a feel for the scale of the landscape and the trains, I will show you the whole train passing by this time. If you're impatient, please go to the timeline, skip ahead a few minutes, and then the video will continue as usual. But for those that have time, please enjoy. Following the railway line even more to the west, we are getting close to Canmore. I found this neat looking bridge which is crossing the Bow River yet again, and I've been waiting for a long time at this spot. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't a bad spot to wait because I had a place to swim and I could enjoy the nice sun, but I waited a long time. I've come across 2 maintenance vehicles, as you can see, and then I was hoping for a westbound train, but the only train that was passing that day was an eastbound train. Now we jumped ahead about 150 kilometers along the line towards the west. We have just crossed the border between Alberta and British Columbia, and in BC there are the spiral tunnels of the Canadian Pacific Railway. A really neat sight, but you can't see anything. As you can tell, I was lucky enough to meet a train. We can see one of the tunnel portals and then you can't see anything. So this should have been the highlight of my video, but it's obviously not. So let's move on towards the east, so back towards Calgary, and let's explore the rest of the line, which we skipped earlier. This westbound moving train caught me by surprise. I was expecting a eastbound train, which I spotted earlier in the spiral tunnels. But nevertheless, here it is. Right behind me is Trans-Canada Highway 1, and I'm standing on the border between Alberta and British Columbia. So this train moving westbound is just entering British Columbia. Moving back to the east, I am making a short stop at the village of Lake LUISE, where I can witness another train crossing. This is the same train I saw earlier that day moving through the spiral tunnels. My plan is to lock onto this train and follow it to the village of Canmore. As I was waiting for the passage of my freight train just east of Canmore, I was noticing a shunting operation at a nearby cement plant. So I stopped by and had a look at the two shunting locomotives, which were just pulling up with a small train behind them. This is basically the same spot. You can see the cement plant in the background where the two switching locomotives are working, and we can tell that there is my freight train approaching full speed ahead. And of course there is a oncoming westbound train as well. So there you have it. We covered almost 200 kilometers of Canadian Pacific Railway line. We have seen lots of freight trains, we have seen some maintenance vehicles, and we've seen the rail yard in Calgary itself. So with that, I'd like to close the video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and we will see us in the next one when we do something else. Bye!